Hi everyone, back again. Today I'm calling her Lady Death, but she was actually called Mythic Death on the site I ordered her from. We're actually going to talk about Victoria Aveyard's Red Queen. Apparently everybody was on this bandwagon way before me. I had actually just recently seen a tweet from her where someone called her out about being able to say something when she becomes a best-selling author, only to find out she is a best-selling author. Considering how much I love audiobooks while doing these diamond paintings, I decided to find Red Queen and listen to it. Audible is great for that. No, I do not have an Audible plug, but I love Audible, so there you go. So if you are like me and have no idea what the book is about, it is a series, and so far I have only listened to the first one, so I cannot give you my opinion on any others but the first one. I can't tell you how the rest of the series goes. I don't know anything other than what happens in the first book. In the first book, I find it to be a fascinating plot with some stretches to it, and it's definitely a young adult type audience, but I will not lie. My favorite genres are young adult and romance. It doesn't matter that I'm way too old for one of those and should know better for the other one. But those are the genres I like to read, listen to. As I mentioned before, in my taste in like manga, I tend to go for high school romance manga, reverse harems. I like that kind of thing. I am a sucker. Red Queen has a bit of romance, but it's not what you expect, and I think that's one of the things that made me like this story. The book is about Mare Barrow. There are two types of people in this world. One has red blood, one has silver blood. Those with silver blood have basically magic powers. And it works on, they have magic powers they mostly inherit from their fathers. So it's one type of power. Mare, however, being a red who should not have magic powers, finds out by accident she does have magic powers. That, nothing really groundbreaking in this. I wouldn't say it's tired, it's not. It was definitely a fascinating way to do it. But all things you've heard of or seen before. And as somebody said, there are no new stories. Every idea has been used before. It's just how it's told. This is a different take. It's not a cut and dry story, especially with who is on what side. As usual, I don't like to give too much of a plot away. I don't like to give too many spoilers for a series. But in this book, there are sort of 3 love interests for Mare. And we're going to concentrate on love interests because, again, romance is one of my favorite things. The love interests are Killorn, who is a red, very whiny, probably my least favorite of the 3 possible love interests. Now, she never shows any affection towards him other than friendship, but it's very obvious he cares more about her than that. I don't know how the rest of the books are going to go, but I did not like him as a love interest from the beginning. Then there is Cal, who, and you find this out early on, so I will give it away. Cal is the crown prince, going to be king. And then there's Mabon, who is the younger prince, and will not be king. And you kind of get the, hey, cool, 2 princes are fighting over her. But you have to also imagine the situation she's in. She ends up stuck in the castle and forced into a new life because she finds out she has abilities. They go by the word abilities, not powers. They even correct her at one point when she calls them powers. Now, the reason I say it's definitely written for young adults is one of the main villains in the story, and it's obvious from the beginning she's the villain, there's no real question about it, is Queen Alara. And I have to make, and I made a comment about this on Twitter, but I have to comment on this. The way the narrator reads Queen Alara, it makes me think Michelle Pfeiffer, when Michelle Pfeiffer is playing the villain of a series. It has that haughty, just the same lilt to the voice that Michelle Pfeiffer uses. And if they ever make a live action film and they get the chance to use Michelle Pfeiffer, I would really love to see them use Michelle Pfeiffer. But Queen Alara's ability is basically reading minds. Now, considering that, the biggest flaw of the story is why no one questions why Alara is not reading more minds. If she wants to know what's going on, it's really easy for her to figure it out. She does not in many places, and that should be a red flag. That's one of the biggest flaws of the series, of the book, not series. The other one for me is that it really pushes these love interests, and it really feels like Mare has no chemistry with any of them, to be honest. And maybe it's just the way it's told. There is always a difference between hearing it and reading it, but I ended up, well, personally I sided with Cal more than I sided with any of the others as a love interest, but even then it felt really forced. The love aspect of the story felt very forced. I also ended up with more questions out of this book. Anyone in the Reds who does not have a job or an apprenticeship by the time they turn 18 is forced into conscription, which means they are forced to become a soldier and go to war. However, it never really, it explains who they're at war with, explains why they're at war. And if it explains it, it does not do it in enough detail that it stuck with me through an audiobook. I found myself wondering why they fight and wondering how they actually feel about the war itself. Conscription is horrifying for them. They cry, they scream, they fight. People I've known try to run, even though it could mean a death sentence, and usually does. But it never really talks about how they feel about the war itself. We have, in America, we've had draft dodgers who went to Canada or had bone spurs because they didn't want to go to war because they were afraid to fight and die, not necessarily because they were afraid to fight and die in something they didn't believe in, but it's never explained from any if they believe in this war or not. So it almost feels like it's just a thing, as opposed to being something that was thought of ahead of time. No, she has plenty of books in the series. She, as a audible book or audiobook, it was, pardon me, water, hold on. The audiobook was about 12 hours long. That's a long book. Not as long as some, but that's still pretty long. I'm apparently very dry right now. So as a long book, you kind of wonder. Apparently I had to go get a cough drop. As a long book, you kind of wonder if they could have fit a little bit more of this in. Maybe something else could have been sacrificed. The war aspect fascinates me, and I just wonder if it'll come up more in the future. And I'm really trying to avoid spoilers, so don't tell me either. I've already got the next book title lined up to read. All in all, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. I would probably honestly say it's closer to 4 stars for some of the flaws I said. Some of the things I saw coming just because, again, Alara can read minds. When she wasn't doing it, you kind of started to wonder, well, why? And that comes up. Too many characters seemed one-dimensional as well. I'd like to know more of the reasoning behind things. Yeah. Too many questions left unanswered. And I know it's a first book in a series, but mostly unsatisfied with some of the answers I didn't get. But as I said, it did things differently, treated romance differently, which is refreshing to see instead of the same old. It's going to be between these two guys, and you already know which guy's going to win. And as somebody who's a fan of romance, I like to see something different once in a while. So good book. I'd like to know more about it. I mean, I know I liked it enough. I already have the next book set up and ready to go after I finish the one I'm reading now, or listening to. I say reading, but I'm listening to it. And I say reading as I still go on Goodreads and mark them as done, as I read them. I still read other books too, though. I'm actually reading Pretty Little Liars right now. Well, I'm actually reading Wicked, which is the 4th or 5th book in the Pretty Little Liars series. A lot of books and manga in my house. And there's Onyx to say goodnight. What did you guys read Red Queen? Have you thought about reading it? Am I being too harsh on it? Am I looking at it through older eyes as opposed to the young eyes that would read it? Let me know what you think. I think that's all I have to say. I spoke more about a shorter book than I did this one. The cough isn't helping. My throat was drier than I thought it was going to be. Fighting a cold for a while. Let me know what you guys think. If you think the series gets better, it gets worse, or if you want to read it at all. Alright, I will talk to you guys the next time.